Hey guys, it's Andrew here, back with another TouchDesigner tutorial. Wow! Kidding, just a little bit, not 100%. I'm really busy this month because of finals, so I don't have enough time to actually rebuild this entire patch. But that's okay because this is heavily based off of ASCII art, and I think that if you want to follow along, um, if you watch an ASCII art tutorial, doing this tutorial will be pretty straightforward. I'm just going to be running through a pre-built patch and sort of explaining most of the steps that I'm doing. But you can also get the entire file on my Patreon. What's really cool about this patch that I love is that every single board state that you can make will be an actual legitimate board state. You can play with the noise, you can play with the period, you can change the amplitude, you can increase the amount of mines, you can animate it, obviously. But yeah, another cool thing is it takes in black and white images. So I just have a circle right here, but what you can do is you can just plug that in, and now you have a spinning pentagon. Um, and yeah, adapts pretty well. So like a circle, you can change the radius. Super fun. That's how I made my Bad Apple um, videos that you've probably seen on my Instagram. And yeah, I just really love this patch like so much. Um, really been into GLSL filters and TouchDesigner filters. I think they're really fun to play and really get to thinking about how to quantify pixel values and such. But yeah, let's get started, shall we? Okay, so before we get started, I'm just gonna go and run through a little bit of the intuition behind how I got to the final product. This means that we're going to be explaining a little bit of math concepts, but again, you don't need to know any math to actually understand what's going on. So if you're not mathematically inclined, don't worry about it, but you should totally stay for this part. Maybe you'll learn something, and that's going to be fun. Yeah. So the way that I think about these type of projects is essentially we're given an input image, right? And this image is made up of a bunch of pixels. And essentially what we're going to do is we're just going to label every single pixel with a number. Okay, like from 0 to 6, right? We have 7 images here, right? So we have 0, oh, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, well, now what can we do? Okay, well, let's say that we have a 3 by 3 image. And that's just 9 pixels, right? Well, what we can do is we can assign every single pixel a value. Well, if we look at the assigned numbers that we gave our textures, essentially what we're doing is we're just going to slot every single image into the label. So that goes to 6, this goes to 3, this one goes to 4, this one goes to 0, so on and so forth. And so what we end up doing is we replace our 3 by 3 image with a 3 by 3, I guess, collection of the original textures that we're using. Think of it like a palette, like we're using a paintbrush, and every single index is a different color. That's like how I think about it. We're just painting with textures instead of colors. So the next question becomes, well, how do we count up the mines? If you don't know the rules to Minesweeper, you can skip this part. But let's say that we have a mine represented on a 3 by 3 grid above my head. Well, we can also draw this out. We can put a red dot on the center of our grid, and then we know from the rules of Minesweeper that all of these will be 1. Now the question is, well, how do we get the GPU to know that the adjacent tiles are 1? Well, all we simply have to do is we grab our mine and we just move it around the adjacent 8 tiles, like so, and we increment. When we do that, well, we can add another mine. Let's say right here. And we can do the exact same thing. We're going to grab it, and then we're going to move it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like so. And then we can update accordingly. This. Like that. Super simple, super straightforward. We're just moving it in a circle. And this is great because, well, remember that system that we had before where we were indexing pixels and then assigning a texture? Well, we can do the exact same thing here. What we can do is we could have T as in like a tile that we haven't pressed yet. And then we have our 1 being the blue colored one. And then our 2 being the green colored 2, like so. And so we can replace our red dots with the value of 0, like so. And then, well, 0, 1, 2, like so. Well, then all of these will go to the respective correct orders. And we can stretch this out to up to 8, as many as we want. We can add the flags, we can add the actual mines, and yeah, super, super good. So the first part that I wanted to make sure was right was my grid size. So right now, this is a 9x9 grid, and we determined that off of a tile ratio, which is just an integer number. If my tile ratio was at 1, then I'm basically having a Minesweeper tile that is a Minesweeper game that's 1080 by 1080. So when we increase our tile ratio, we make our board smaller. And I'm just doing that by grabbing an integer. I am inversing it and then multiplying it and then flooring it. And when I do that, I get a smaller grid, which I can work with. So this one's 7x7, just like so. And then the next part is connecting that to a rectangle, which then I add into a noise. And with this noise, I essentially round it. And what that does is I round it, I limit it, and I basically want values of from 0 to 1, right? Or 0 or 1. And essentially what that is all the zeros are empty tiles, and then my 1s are my mines, like so. So this is a mine, this is a mine, this is a mine, so on and so forth. And then in here, what I do is I have a count mines. And so in my count mines, I'm essentially doing exactly what I was doing in my drawings, which I was shifting all of my textures to the adjacent corners. So this one's upper left, up, upper right, so on and so forth. And I'm just moving it by a pixel each time, just like so. So the pixel 1 goes up. This one is 1, 1, so it goes up and then right. And then I'm adding all of them together. And that gives me a bunch of countable or counted mines. So you see here, this is 1, 1, 1, this is 2, 3, and all of these correspond to the amount of mines that are on my board. Okay, but before we move on, make sure everything is 32-bit float RGBA. If not, everything is going to break. Okay, so after we counted up our mines, what I'm going to do is I want to chroma key the background. And the reason why is because I want to get rid of all of the areas that aren't counters, right? So these are going to be my counters, and then I'm going to make everything else, and I'm just going to layer all of them together. So these are my counters. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my mines, right? Like so. And I want to essentially change the value of these mines, right? Because if I'm sort of labeling each pixel, I already have my ones taken up, right? My ones are supposed to correspond to the one counter texture, right? All of you. So if I were to just keep these two the same, then these would be ones and then this would be one. What I want to do is I want to switch this to 0 because 0 is going to be my unpressed tile texture. And the way I'm just doing that is with a level. I'm just inverting it and then I'm chroma keying the background. There we go. So that's just our mine. Then what I'm going to do is I just over these two and yeah, now I just have my counters and mines. The 0 is where my mine is, and then my values around it are the amount of mines that are being counted. The next thing that I want to deal with is these empty tiles, right? These are the tiles that are, I guess, like no man's land in terms of the game. And the way that I do this is I essentially chain a constant, and I just set this to be under, which I don't think you actually need to do. You can also just do, I think, set resolution only. You just want a constant, and I'm going to label this as 9. And the reason why I'm labeling it as 9 is because in terms of our textures that we're using, we have 0, which is our unpressed tile, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? Those are the countable tile, counter tiles, that textures that we're going to be using. So next, the 9 is our immediate empty texture that we can use. So I just put 9 as the empty tiles, and I put that underneath my counters and mines. And this is our final texture, and this is our valid Minesweeper board, but in pixel form, essentially. Okay, so now that I have my final board, I can bring this into my UV remapper. And this is a big reason why I really like working with this stuff, because we're not using any instancing. You can do this with instancing, but I think this is so fun because I'm doing this all in tops, which is like, what? Like so cool, right? Anyways, so we have our UV, and our UV is just taking our source image. And if you don't know what a UV is, it's essentially a ramp, and then you reorder it so that it's red and green. And now you have something that goes from 0 to 1 in the red channel and in the Y channel, green channel. Anyways, now what I want to do is I want to transform it by scaling, and I want it to repeat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I want it to repeat 7 times in both directions. So what I'm doing is I'm just scaling it with the tile value, but inverse. Make sure that the pivot's at 0, 0. If it's not, you'll mess up the UV. Now what I want to do is, well, let's take a look at our texture holder, I guess. So this one, you see, it goes from 0 to, I think 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, so this is from 0 to 13, or 1 to 14. And what we're going to do is we're going to add our Minesweeper tile to our transformed UV grid. And essentially what is going on here, my best way to explain it is we're going to only add to the red channel, because if we were to add to the green channel, we would be sort of going upwards on the sampling. We only want to go leftwards on the sampling, or left to right, essentially. And what I mean by that is, so let's say that we have this one right here, right? Well, I can add it to my UV, like so. And that means that I'm moving 1 to the right. And so this one is going to be here. I can also, let's take a look at another value. Let's take a look at this pixel value right here. This pixel value is 3. So we're adding 3 to this location right here. And so what that means is we're going from 0, 1, 2, 3. And we're associating that texture to this location right here. One thing to be very, very sure about when you're adding these two together is, since these are, well, number one, you want your Minesweeper board to be in the first input, and then you want your UV to be in the second input. And you also want this to be nearest pixels and masking red. If any of those are messed up, you're not going to get the right thing. Now, hopefully that makes sense. One of the things that you should observe, though, is that these values are way too high for UV, because UV goes from 0 to 1. And the thing is that, well, what if we have a texture, right, that's going to be like all the way here, 9, right? Or even like worse, like 14, right? That's what's going to end up happening if we have like an entire board of a bunch of different mines. We don't want our red channel to be going from 0 to 14, because this is what we essentially have right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide by 14, but again, only in the red channel, so that we essentially change the range and like bound it to actual UV coordinates. If we were to get rid of this, now we've just like completely messed it up, because now we're just grabbing things that don't exist, right? All of these, essentially what's happening is that all of the blank parts are grabbing like 14, like the pixel value at the UV coordinate at 14. And that just simply does not exist on this texture, right? This texture does not have that. So that's why you want to divide it by 14. Of course, if you want to change this texture, you're gonna have to change this value as well. So if you were to get rid of one of these pixels, then you would also have to change this. So, you know, if you get rid of one and change it to 13 textures, then you want to change this to 13. If you're adding another texture, then you want to increase that into 15. And yeah, that's literally it. Next thing you want to do is just remap this entire thing. And yeah, just make sure it's all of these settings. That's it. That's the tutorial, guys. I would get into this whole part, but I don't know. I'll provide this texture for you guys to use. I would say the only thing is make sure that every single texture is the same resolution, right? I think all of these are 17 by 17. And you want that to be the case, because again, a pixel is also, like every pixel in an image is the same size. If you have one that's 16 and then one that's 17, then things are gonna look wonky. Anyways, that was my tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys do enjoy what I make and what I teach, please consider subscribing to my Patreon. I'll be uploading this entire component onto my Patreon for my tier 1 subscribers. And you know, they'll have all the goodies. And yeah, hopefully the next time I see you guys, I will be a graduate and I'll have a lot more time to make cool art and make even more tutorials. But aside from that, like, comment, subscribe, check out the Instagram, the whole shebang. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.